Hello everyone, I am Sacrobolic, your envoy of despair, and welcome to WIWR. So, recently I watched Ultramarine Magmell. This is about a mysterious continent that just suddenly appears on Earth. I'm pretty sure it's Earth because they show a view of the world map and it just looks like Earth. It's a mysterious continent called Magmell that just appears on Earth, and the main character he's like a guide for Magmell that takes people to the continent because it's supposed to be super dangerous, and he helps them accomplish their goal for money, but he's always poor, even though he's portrayed as the best. It seems like he would be getting plenty of work, but maybe he just turns down everyone, but he seems to turn down no one, so I don't understand. But anyway, yeah, and he has an assistant named Zero, and they both have the ability to just create matter, and I don't think they explain why. It's just they're special and they can do it, and there's presumably other people that can do it. And the show has hints of a plot where the main character has a teacher that went missing somewhere, and he seems to want to train his assistant so that together they can go find him, and his assistant was part of some kind of experiment to train people on how to create matter and help develop her talents. And although they address both of these stories and you get to see a little bit about the people that held Zero captive, they never really seem to tie together very well, and they don't really seem to go anywhere other than just as a villain. The whole show is incredibly episodic, so I kind of feel like it wastes its premise. And another major issue with the show is that there's not really a lot of backing soundtracks, so a lot of the scenes are just dead silence, and it just it's a very boring viewing experience for those reasons. And let's also not forget that the main characters are terrible, and they attempt to murder this poor shopkeeper, and I don't know why. They buy his shit so that they can replicate it with their fucking matter creation powers, but they just keep trying to kill the guy. I don't get it. And it's incredibly boring. Don't watch it. Next up was Cannon Busters. Cannon Busters is about an immortal who made a deal with some wizard, presumably a long time ago, and a robot who is trying to find the prince that she serves, and she knows where he is, and the robot's trying to get the immortal's help. Philly the kid, help to find the prince while her country is being destroyed by the oldest prince who now has magic, even though magic has been wiped out for a long time. And as it turns out, the main character has a grudge against her country, and so there's a little bit of a conflict there. I was never really bored watching Cannon Busters, but I was never that into anything that was happening. It was always okay, it's watchable, but it's nothing really to write home about, and I can't really delve much deeper into it. Quintessential Quintuplets is about this really heavy into studying guy. He's got the top grades. He gets all hundreds on his exams, and he is hired but he's poor and his family's in debt. And he is hired to tutor these 5 quintets who all are just flunking. They are just failing basically every subject, and he has to try and save their grades, and they're rich, so he gets paid a lot of money for doing it, but they fight him at every moment. And interestingly, he is a little bit of an asshole, and it's not entirely unjustifiable that the quintets, and they're also rich, let's be fair here, so it's not unjustifiable that the quintets don't feel like playing ball with him in this circumstance. Weirdly, some of them are assholes to him for no justifiable reason, but even in those cases, I feel like they're doing it because their other sisters were doing it, and they didn't want to alienate anyone, which is probably the reason. So yeah, Quintessential Quintets is a romance comedy, and we get shots of the future where we find out that in the future he marries one of the quintets, but they're quintets, so you don't know which one. So the question is, which one is he going to marry in the future? And that's you don't find out in the season itself, and it's just about the main character getting to know the quints and like their personalities and trying to help them study. It's a charming romance comedy, and I enjoyed it. Next up was DanMachi Season 2. DanMachi Season 2 was actually like a notable improvement from the first one. One thing that I really appreciated about the first season was that it portrayed how fucking boring it probably is to be an explorer as part of your job. Weirdly, Season 2 doesn't have anything to do with the dungeon. It's more about infighting among the familia operated by the gods. In fact, I think that's the whole fucking thing, because the first arc was Apollo, and then the second arc was Ishtar. So that is, in fact, the whole thing. It's just infighting among the gods, which is probably what makes it more interesting. And the Hestia Familia has a little bit more rounded of a cast now that there's multiple members inside of it. And it expands greatly in this season. And because of those reasons, I feel like the fact that Belle sucks isn't as notable because the supporting cast is able to make up for it. So we have a more interesting plot than just go in dungeon. And we have a more rounded like character base to actually build stories off of. So we don't really have to worry about it getting bogged down by the blandness of the main character. There's not enough Eins. Because as we all know, Eyes is amazing. We learned that last year when she had her own spin-off, and honestly the season would be better with a lot more Loki, because Loki is amazing and I love her. But otherwise, not a bad season, definitely an improvement. I liked it. Not Gaiden good, but definitely an improvement over the first season, and I think they've already confirmed season 3, and I'll definitely watch it. They did a good job, and I want to see where this is going to keep going. Then I watched Copcraft. This is actually made by the same guy that did Full Metal Panic. When I was getting into anime, Full Metal Panic was one of the first anime I watched. And Copcraft is about an invisible portal that opens up between a magical world and Earth. I think near America, but it might also be near Japan. I'm not sure. It seems to be set in America with like America laws and names, but I think the main character's Japanese. So I think it's a little column A, column B. It's probably somewhere in the Pacific. They say every fucking episode, and I don't remember. But anyway, the show is about, like, this, like, I'm gonna call her an elf. I don't know how to describe it. Who comes over from the magical world, and the main character, who's a cop, is told he has to help her find this missing fairy, and, like, fairies are being used as drugs, kind of, and they have to work together to find the fairy, and the stuff happens, and she ends up, like, forming a bond with him. Like they get along, but in that like a rivalry kind of thing, you know. They like each other, but they're a little bristly. And she ends up permanently moving into the city to be his like partner cop. And a lot of the show is it's like a buddy cop anime. It's actually really great. I like that the characters both take turns being right and wrong. Like it's not like he takes like on mentorship role. He's a bit of an ass, and she's kind of got to stick up her butt, you know. So they have their like merits and flaws. It's actually really nice, and they bounce off of each other pretty great. Like the supporting cast of the other cops, they don't appear often, but when they do, they're great. They have a nice like layers of depth to all of the characters, which I can really appreciate. The major complaint about Copcraft is that the animation is horse shit. I mean, it like if you they tend to cut away from action a lot, and they use still frames during action scenes. It's really bad, and honestly, fucking Copcraft could have been possibly even my favorite anime of the year if it had like twice the budget and maybe a couple more episodes to like flesh out its story a little more. It's a real shame. It's really good, but if you're someone that watches anime for animation, Copcraft is not for you. But yeah, otherwise, great show. Yeah, so that's what I watched recently. We actually have a special thing this week because I know exactly what I'm going to watch next week, and I can tell you right now. I recently finished my stream of Danganronpa Another Episode Ultra Despair Girls, and so it's time for me to now watch the remaining Danganronpa anime so that I can play V3. So I'll be watching Danganronpa 2.5, 3 Despair, 3 Hope, and 3 the one that goes after those two. So yeah, no, I'm not really the biggest Danganronpa fan, beforehand, just as a warning, and as a follow-up warning, I am going to spoil probably fucking everything, so watch out for that next time. But speaking of next time, I've been Sacrobolic, your envoy of despair, and I will see you then. Bye-bye.